What joys and challenges lie in a season of change? In Columbus, pregnancy stirs hope and heartache among a sister. Join a story of love's quiet strength. Welcome to Revenza Tales, where each leaf tells a story. Subscribe, like, and ring the bell to read more. Leave your city below and ask us, have you ever drawn strength from family support? Walk with Michelle into her world, where autumn colors a new beginning. The Columbus, Ohio fall was lovely like a canvas. The trees along the neighborhood streets of Maple Avenue were painted red and gold. A chilly breeze brushed across her cheeks with the fragrance of fallen leaves. Michelle Roberts stood by the kitchen window of her house, wrapping her coffee cup in both her hands. The heat permeated through her fingers, little comfort. She freelanced as a graphic designer, logos and brochures for companies. From a studio in one corner of her apartment, the room filled with sketches. "Good morning, beautiful." She switched around at the deep voice behind her to see husband James descending the stairs. He was buttoning his white coat, which was crisp and clean. He served as an obstetrician in the local general hospital, cherished by his patients. For his soothing smile and placid nature, a ray of comfort. They were married for 5 years but were childless. They had been trying fertility treatment for 2 years, but had not been blessed with a child. But this did not darken the colors of their relationship. Instead, it made them closer as they comforted one another. A silent strength. "Will you be late again today?" Michelle asked as she put a coffee cup in James's hand. "Yes, there's a chance of emergency surgery," he said. "But I'll do my best to get home early." "Caroline and Tom are coming over for dinner this evening, aren't they?" Michelle's sister Caroline taught 3rd graders at the neighborhood elementary school. Adored by children and co-workers alike, her classroom a joy hub. She had been married to Tom, a banker, for 3 years and was now 8 months pregnant. Her first pregnancy, the whole family was waiting with bated breath for the baby's birth. Of the much-awaited baby, a new life ahead. "Right," nodded Michelle. "Caroline's tummy has become so large lately. Even climbing up and down the stairs appears challenging for her. But she looks so happy. Just seeing her makes me happy too." Michelle's voice was filled with pure love for her sister, a tender note. For them who were continuing fertility treatments, her sister's pregnancy sometimes stirred complex emotions. A mix of joy and longing, a silent ache. But both of them genuinely wished for their sister's happiness, their hearts open. Instead, they were thankful that they could find the happiness they couldn't through their sister. At about 6 o'clock in the evening, the doorbell sounded, a gentle ring disrupting the silence. When Michelle opened the door, Caroline smiled, holding her belly with great care. Her light brown hair fell to her shoulders, and since she had been pregnant, her cheeks had gained a fuller quality, accentuating her maternal loveliness, a warm glow. Behind her was Tom with his hand resting on his wife's shoulder. His touch light, tall and warm-hearted. He shared the same gentle nature as Caroline and was adored by the family. Caroline embraced Michelle with one arm and wrapped her other arm around her belly. "The baby is very active today," she exclaimed, smiling warmly. "I think she's happy to see you both." "Really?" Michelle put her hand on her sister's abdomen, her fingers quivering with excitement. "Oh, she's moving for sure. This kid could be a soccer player someday." When James came home from work, the 4 of them sat around the dining table. In eating the chicken curry and salad that Michelle had prepared, Caroline's favorite, the smell aromatic. The topic of conversation inevitably turned to the baby, voices clashing with laughter. "Did you choose a name yet?" James inquired, his voice inquisitive. "We have no idea if it's a boy or a girl, so we're considering Michael for a boy and Emily for a girl," Caroline replied cheerfully. "But Tom would prefer a different name, don't you?" "I would prefer a more unusual name," Tom replied while taking his wife's hand. But Caroline must choose in the end. "Did you complete the shopping for baby things?" Michelle asked, her eyes sparkling. "Actually, we haven't purchased the crib and car seat yet." Caroline appeared a bit upset. "We don't know what's good." Then let's shop together this weekend. Michelle's voice was full of enthusiasm. James will be with us too, won't you? Sure, James smiled. It'll be my first time selecting baby things, so it'll be a learning experience for me. The four of them went shopping in a baby supply store that weekend. The aisles crowded. Michelle scrunched up her eyes while she picked out baby clothes with her sister, picking up the little pieces of clothing. Seeing the delicate pastel-colored garments and adorable underwear with animal designs filled her with warmth. Caroline pulled a stroller along to test it out and said, "Sister, once this child is born, each day will be different, won't it? It's scary and thrilling at the same time." "It'll be okay." Michelle softly patted her sister's shoulder. "You'll be a natural mother. I can see it from the way you work with the children at school. Anyway, we'll always be here for you." Tom and James were getting directions from a department store clerk on how to put together a crib. They both had grave faces, like they were picking out a bed for their own child, their concentration intense. During the ride home, Caroline chatted gaily while rubbing her tummy in the front seat. "Imagine getting paid $10,000 a month on YouTube, all from home. That's what I did with Edit Stories. No voice, no face. See the link in the description if you care." "In the car, to have everybody here is just comforting," she went on. "This child is going to be raised with so much love around them." Michelle looked over her sister's profile looming in front of her from the back seat. Knowing the strength of their family tie, one unbroken. In October, the preparations for the baby shower got underway. Michelle was designing the invitations in her home studio, the room still. On a watercolor effect background of pale pink and blue, she was writing out the words, "Welcome, little one," in flowing calligraphy, each brushstroke precise. Applying her design skills, she was crafting each one by hand with every ounce of her being, the paper tender. "Do you like it?" Michelle presented the finished invitation to James. Her husband studied it intently while sporting his reading glasses, the lenses sparkling. "It's truly beautiful," he declared. "I believe Caroline will be thrilled. But employing both colors because we have no idea whether it's a girl or a boy was the best decision." "Right," replied Michelle, smiling. "Caroline won't tell us the gender until the final day. She says, 'I want to leave it as a surprise until birth.'" The following day, Michelle accompanied Caroline to view the party location. The venue was a community center room, a light-filled space with big windows that faced out onto the garden. Caroline trailed her way slowly around the room, supporting her stomach, taking careful steps. "Do we put tables here and a gift platform in that corner?" Michelle asked, her mind planning room configurations as she considered. "Thank you so much," Caroline expressed her appreciation. "I've never had such a huge party organized for me, and I don't know what to do." "What are you talking about?" Michelle's tone was stern. "We're family, aren't we? Besides, your baby is special to us too." That evening, Michelle and James were making the list of guests, the table littered with names, including Tom and Caroline's friends, workmates, and family members from both sides. There would be around 30 guests, a celebration of love. "Where do we order the cake?" James inquired, his tone contemplative. "Sweet Dreams, the Main Street cake shop," replied Michelle. "They said they would make Caroline's favorite lemon cake. We're planning to decorate it with sugar-crafted baby shoes on top." "That's perfect," James nodded. "Caroline has always loved lemon cake since she was little." As preparations progressed, the excitement of the entire family grew, a palpable energy. Tom took time from work to buy decorative supplies for the venue, his selections careful. What he chose were materials to create white and cream-colored balloon arches. And a lovely banner with "Baby Shower," the letters bold. "Tom, you have wonderful taste," Michelle exclaimed over the decorations he brought, her eyes wide with surprise. "In fact, I took advice from Caroline," Tom replied modestly, his cheeks flushed. "She told me she wanted it to be simple and elegant." "You're such a wonderful husband," Michelle said affectionately. "Caroline is a lucky woman." 7 days before the party, The four of them took their last shopping trip. Taking into consideration Caroline's state, they decided upon a shopping mall within car reach, the parking area packed. Having reached the advanced stages of pregnancy, Caroline's gait had slowed down from what it used to be. Yet her smile was always cheerful, a bright beam. "Are these suitable for game prizes?" Michelle inquired while picking small candles and hand creams. "Perfect," Caroline replied while inspecting each product, her fingers delicate. "I think everyone will like it. Look, the baby is moving," she added excitedly. She must be enjoying the shopping. James and Tom were choosing drinks and light refreshments, their selection deliberate. "Is 3 types of sandwiches sufficient?" James verified, his voice interrogative. "Let's concentrate on foods that pregnant women can safely eat," Tom affirmed, his voice resolute. On the trip home, Caroline chattered cheerfully while stroking her belly in the front passenger seat. "This child will definitely grow up being loved by everyone. So many people are eagerly waiting for her birth. Of course, this child will be our treasure." Michelle laid a hand on her sister's shoulder. In the back seat, her touch a promise. The day before the party, Michelle arrived in the venue early morning to prepare. Tom and James dropped by to assist before going to work, their footsteps eager. They all collaborated in setting up tables, setting chairs out, and constructing the stunning balloon arch. "Perfect," Michelle exclaimed with appreciation as she surveyed the entire setting. The pastel-decorated room was as lovely as a fairy tale kingdom. "Caroline will be so touched she'll bawl when she sees this," Tom grinned, envisioning his wife's response. That evening, the four met for a final inspection, the room buzzing with excitement. The replies to the invitations had all come in and all 30 were going to come. The notice of the cake completion had arrived and the game arrangements were ideal. Tomorrow is actually the day. Caroline could not suppress her delight, her eyes sparkling. "Everyone coming is just like a dream. Watching you so joyful makes us joyful too." Michelle clutched her sister's hand, her fingers tightening. "Tomorrow is going to be the best day," James also said, his tone warm. "Yes, we're eagerly anticipating it too. I informed my patients about it," he went on. "They all made it clear it'll be a great baby shower. Dr. James, thank you for always showing concern for your patients." Caroline expressed her gratitude. Her tone possessed a depth of appreciation. "I want you to check on my baby in the future as well," Caroline said, her tone gentle. "Absolutely, I'd love to," James replied warmly, his smile sincere. That evening, Michelle double-checked the schedule for the next day before bed. Final site check at 10 a.m. Reception at 11 a.m. Party at noon. It was all neatly set up, the checklist impeccable. "Tomorrow will truly be a special day," Michelle told James, her eyes shining. "Yes, I'm so looking forward to seeing how thrilled Caroline will be," he said. "Thanks to your efforts organizing. I think it'll be a great party. It's the start of a new chapter for our family," Michelle said, grasping her husband's hand. Her fingers entwined with his, a vow unspoken. "When this baby arrives, our lives will certainly change too. But I think it will be changed for the better." The following morning was fine, ideal weather for a party, the sky an unblemished blue. Michelle came to the community center at 8 a.m. and started final preparations. Pastel balloons shone brightly in the autumn sunlight, a festive sheen. The grounds had a dreamlike quality, the air light with expectation. "Good morning," said Margaret, the event manager, her voice sunny. "Today's a special day, isn't it? Your sister's baby shower." "Correct, yes," Michelle replied triumphantly, smoothing the final creases from a tablecloth. Her fingers moved delicately, the cloth crisp. Tom pulled in at 10:30 a.m. with a bouquet, the flowers bright. "Good morning, Michelle," he said. "Caroline is making her last preparations now. She's really looking forward." "What lovely flowers," Michelle appreciated, her eyes dwelling. "White roses and pale pink gerberas, Caroline's favorites," she added as she took the bouquet. "She'll certainly be thrilled." Guests started arriving at 11 a.m., one after another, the room becoming full. Caroline's friends, the elementary school teachers, neighborhood friends, and relatives of both families. Everybody had nicely wrapped presents and walked in with smiles, the atmosphere festive. "Oh, Michelle, the place is great," Sarah, Caroline's best friend, said with admiration. "It's like it was done by professionals." "Thanks," Michelle replied contentedly, her chest puffing out. It was worth everyone cooperating. A short while before noon, Caroline arrived, her presence a beacon of hope. Dressed in a light blue maternity gown, she really did shine, her radiance indisputable. Her stomach was big and puffy, and her gait was cautious, each step considered. But her face was full of pure happiness, a mother's light. Caroline scanned the venue and gave a shout of joy. "Amazing! It's like a magazine photo." The guests burst out clapping all together and shouted, "Surprise!" Tears filled Caroline's eyes, her feelings overflowing. "Thank you all so much for giving me such a great party," she welcomed with a tearful voice. As the party started, the hall was filled with laughter and warmth of conversation, the room filled with life. During the games Michelle had arranged, people enjoyed trying to guess the prices of baby products and figuring out whose childhood pictures they were peering at, the room filled with guesses. Caroline sat in a chair all day, smiling contentedly, her happiness infectious. "Caroline, how are you feeling?" When James came, he made a point of checking in on his sister-in-law. Having had to rush directly from the hospital, he was still wearing his white coat, the material creased. "James, thanks for coming," Caroline responded happily. "I'm feeling wonderful. The baby has been awfully active today too." It was time to open presents at about 1 p.m., the moment anticipated. Caroline opened every gift slowly, with tears of appreciation each time. Lovely baby outfits, useful bottle kits, lovingly knitted blankets, each precious. "Finally, here is the last gift." Michelle put a large specially arranged box in front of Caroline. "It's a gift from the entire family." When Caroline unwrapped the box, it held pieces of a lovely wooden crib, the wood shining. "Oh my," she gasped, her voice shaking. "It's the bed we saw in the shop. Tom and James will build it." Michelle smiled, her eyes creaking. After 2 o'clock, Caroline quickly put her hand on her stomach, her face changing. "Oh, the baby is moving so much. She must be enjoying today's party." "Really?" Sarah asked with curiosity, her eyes wide open. "Can I feel?" "Of course," Caroline nodded cheerfully, her smile reappearing. When Sarah gently placed her hand on the belly, she exclaimed, "Wow, she's really moving." Other guests also showed interest, and Caroline gladly let them feel the baby's movement. Everyone said things like, "What an energetic baby," and "She'll surely be an active child." "You feel too," Caroline reached out to Michelle, her hand extended. "You've helped the most." Michelle slowly placed her hand on her sister's belly, her fingers tentative. She definitely felt something stirring, a tiny pulse. "You're right," she said, her voice gentle. "This child has a lot of energy." "James, you try too," Caroline said with a smile at her brother-in-law. "Give us your expert opinion." James stepped forward hesitantly, his steps awkward. "Is it all right?" "Of course," Caroline said playfully. "You're an obstetrician, so try to think of it as examining this child." James put his hand gently on Caroline's belly, his touch clinical. His first smiling face slowly started to alter, a shadow passing over. Wrinkles formed between his brows and he shifted his hand to other areas of the belly. Then he put his hand on the same location once more, his fingers lingering there. "Is it all right?" Caroline asked hopefully, her eyes scanning. "Full of energy, right?" James's face quickly went white, the color ebbing. He took his hand from the belly and stood, catching Michelle by the arm with urgency. "Let's go outside for a moment." His voice was unusually low and tense, a warning. "Huh? Why?" Michelle was confused, her heart racing. "We're in the middle of a party." Right now, James said in an authoritative tone, his eyes steely. His expression held the most serious look Michelle had ever seen, a doctor's instinct. Everyone, excuse us for a moment, Michelle said cheerfully to the guests. We'll be right back. But on noticing James's face, Caroline appeared nervous, her smile disappearing. Is there an issue? It's okay, Caroline. Michelle forced a smile to calm down her sister, her tone strained. We just need to discuss something. James took Michelle's hand and rushed out of the place, his grip tight. When they were in the parking area outside the community center, he turned back and took Michelle's shoulders firmly, his hands shaking. Call an ambulance, he spoke, his tone trembling. Immediately. What? Why? Michelle was bewildered, her head spinning. Everyone's having fun at the party. Didn't you feel anything when you put your hand on your sister's stomach? James's face was pale as wax. It was the baby kicking, wasn't it? It was most definitely kicking, Michelle argued, her voice shrill. James breathed in deeply, his chest rising. His hands were shaking, years of being a doctor yelling a ghastly truth. That wasn't. He fought to get the words out, his voice cracking. Not the baby moving. The baby is. The instant Michelle heard what James had to say next, her world came crashing down, the earth shifting. The memory of happy family and friends gathered round Caroline and laughing in the tastefully dressed hall suddenly transformed into hell, the colors leached. Her knees buckled and she fell on the parking lot asphalt, the pavement cold. That can't be, she breathed, her words a prayer. That can't be possible. James was already reaching for his cell phone, his hands struggling. 911, he said into the receiver. I need an ambulance. We have a woman who's 8 months pregnant, but there's a defect with the fetus. Please come immediately. In the venue, loud laughter could still be heard, a stark contrast. Caroline's cheerful voice was among it, but now it was agonizing to picture that smile, a dagger. Michelle didn't even have the strength to stand and just crouched, her body convulsing. The ambulance siren cut through the autumn stillness, a screaming wail. Emergency workers quickly emerged from the ambulance that pulled up in front of the community center. James told them what was going on, holding up his medical credentials while instructing. 8-month pregnant woman, he said, voice level despite the shake. I think there's an irregularity with the fetal heartbeat. Please transport her to the hospital immediately. Confused guests emerged from the venue, their faces etched with concern. Caroline was seated in a wheelchair, still unable to understand the situation, her eyes wide. What's wrong? She asked anxiously. Why is there an ambulance? I'm fine, Michelle answered in a trembling voice while holding her sister's hand. The baby is moving too. It's just a precautionary examination. It's okay, she added, her voice cracking. It'll surely be okay. Tom stood white beside his wife, his fists closed. James, what in the world is going on? She was okay just a minute ago. Let's take a close look at everything in the hospital, James replied cautiously, his voice even. As a physician, notwithstanding his worst fears, he couldn't give up hope entirely, a glimmer still present. When they reached the obstetrics department of St. Mary's General Hospital, Dr. Wilson was already waiting. An experienced obstetrician, he understood the seriousness of the situation from James's expression at a glance. We'll perform an ultrasound examination immediately, Dr. Wilson said quietly, his voice grave. In the examination room, Caroline lay on the examination table, her hands clasped. While the technician prepared the ultrasound machine, she stared at the ceiling and murmured, Baby, you're okay, aren't you? Mommy is here. The instant the picture popped up on the screen, the exam room was filled with a silence, heavy air. Dr. Wilson studied the screen closely and adjusted the probe from various angles, his concentration sharp. Having done the same thing repeatedly dozens of times, he killed the machine, the wine dropping away. Dr. Roberts, let's speak for a minute. Dr. Wilson motioned to James, his urgency. Inside the hallway, Dr. Wilson declared in a deep voice, "We cannot see a fetal heartbeat. Baby probably died a few weeks back." James slumped against the wall. Being a doctor, he had seen a lot of sorrowful moments, but when it involved family, he couldn't help it. "How do I break this news to the family?" he groaned, his voice strained. "Let's talk together," Dr. Wilson said gently, his hand on James's shoulder. When they returned to the examination room, Caroline looked at the two doctors with a hopeful expression. Her eyes searched theirs, a fragile trust. "Doctor, the baby is fine, right?" Caroline asked, her voice trembling. Dr. Wilson moved a chair to Caroline's bedside and sat down, his expression somber. "Mrs. Mitchell, I'm sorry," he began, his tone gentle. "What is it?" Caroline's smile slowly faded, her face turning pale. "We couldn't get a confirmation of the baby's heartbeat." For a second, time stood still, the room suspended. Caroline seemed to be struggling to comprehend the doctor's words, her eyes scanning. "No heartbeat. What does that mean?" "The baby has passed away," Dr. Wilson informed her as kindly as he could, his voice gentle. Caroline shook her head, her refusal adamant. "No, that's wrong. She was moving just a while ago." Everyone felt it. Tom rushed to the bed and took his wife's hand, his grip tight. "Caroline, no," he whispered, his voice breaking. Caroline raised her voice, her desperation raw. "The examination is wrong. The baby is alive. She's moving." Michelle held her sister's other hand while crying, tears streaming. "Caroline, listen to what the doctor says." "Even you, sister." Caroline shook her head violently, her hair wild. "I'm the mother. Nobody knows my own baby better than I do." Dr. Wilson called to the nurse and told her to fetch medical records. His movement was serene, a habitual gesture. The nurse arrived after some time with a file that was yellowed, the pages worn. "Mrs. Mitchell, there is a report of you being brought to this hospital 2 weeks ago." Dr. Wilson opened the file. "On the 1st of October, he went on, his voice even. "It states you fell downstairs and were admitted as an emergency." Tom stared at his wife in shock, his eyes wide open. "Fell downstairs? I never heard anything about it. Don't you recall?" Dr. Wilson questioned Caroline, his voice inquiring. Caroline was perplexed, her brow wrinkled. "Stairs? No, that's not. I just slipped a bit. It wasn't serious." At that time, it was verified by the records that the fetal heartbeat had ceased. "And this was made clear to your family," Dr. Wilson said, his tone even. "Though you said it was an error during testing and you left the hospital." "That can't be." Caroline was perplexed, her voice weak. "I haven't received a baby checkup. I assumed it wasn't necessary since everything was progressing well." James reread the records, his gaze sweeping. Yes, there was an entry 2 weeks prior for fetal death diagnosis. And explanation to the family, the ink clear. The attending physician's signature there, too, a stark confirmation. "Caroline," Tom said, his voice trembling, his hand shaking. "Why didn't you tell me? Why did you go through this alone?" "I'm not hiding anything," Caroline screamed, her voice echoing. "The baby is alive. She's still moving." Michelle noticed tear tracks on her sister's cheeks, the wetness glistening. Deep sadness and confusion filled Caroline's heart, a storm within. She couldn't accept reality and had escaped into a happy world she created in her mind. "Caroline, we're here for you." Michelle hugged her sister, her arms tight. "You're not alone. Why is everyone lying?" Caroline said while crying, her sobs wrenching. "Look at my belly. It's big, isn't it? It's big because there's a baby inside." Dr. Wilson quietly explained, his voice low. "In cases of stillbirth, the uterine size can be maintained for a while. Those movements you were experiencing were probably intestinal movement or spasm of a muscle." The room at the hospital was filled with thick silence, the air heavy. Caroline gazed at her tummy and stroked it with gentle fingers, shaking. But I was to be a mother. You are already a mother, said Michelle sobbingly, her voice strained. Although for a short while, you were that child's mother. Tom sat next to his wife and enclosed her hand within both of his warmth. I left you alone, he admitted, his tone rough. I didn't know you were hurting so much by yourself. I was afraid. Caroline finally expressed her real sentiments, her voice gentle. Everybody was eagerly awaiting it so much. I didn't know how to let them down. James confronted Caroline as doctor and brother-in-law, his eyes firm. You didn't have to carry this burden alone. We're a family, so we grieve together too. Caroline was seen by a psychiatrist that night, the room shaded. It was reality avoidance due to extreme stress, the doctor said. He said also, with treatment and support, recovery is possible, a spark of hope. The following day, Caroline had the stillborn fetus removed. The operation quiet. The little body was already developed and possessed lovely features, a delicate picture. The family placed flowers on a tiny coffin and softly said goodbye for the last time. The flowers soft. Caroline confronted reality for the very first time and cried in sorrow, her wail muffled. 3 months went by, the duration sluggish. Winter Ohio was blanketed in snow and the world was swathed in quiet, the scenery white. Caroline had been treated at a psychiatric center and was slowly becoming capable of confronting reality. Daily therapy and family input were healing the scars on her heart, a gradual healing. One day Caroline spoke softly to Michelle in the hospital lounge, her voice firm. I finally see. I lost the baby. Michelle held her sister's hand, her grip firm. There was no longer any shadow of reality avoidance in Caroline's eyes. The fog lifted. There was deep sadness, but it was a healthy grieving process, a step forward. You're not alone, Michelle answered tearfully, her voice breaking. We'll always be together. Tom came to visit his wife every day without fail, his presence constant. At first, he continued to blame himself, his guilt heavy. But with the guidance of a counselor, he was in a position to concentrate on caring for his wife, a change. I left you alone, Tom admitted to Caroline one day, his voice a murmur. When you fell down the stairs, I was out of town on a business trip. You went to the hospital by yourself and were informed by yourself that you had lost the baby. If I had been there. It's not your fault. Caroline placed her hand on her husband's cheek, her touch gentle. I was just scared and couldn't accept reality, but I'm okay now. We can move forward together. James watched his sister-in-law's recovery as both a doctor and family member, his pride evident. Caroline is a strong woman, he told Michelle many times, his voice firm. She'll surely recover. 4 months later in spring, Caroline was discharged, the air fresh. Greeting her back home was a little flower bed that Michelle had planted, the flowers alive. Forget-me-nots, she said, her voice gentle. So we wouldn't forget that child. Caroline knelt in front of the flower bed and ran her fingers over the little gravestone, tracing. It was inscribed with, "To our beloved child," the letters legible. Thank you, baby, she said softly, her voice solemn. It was only a short while, but you were definitely in my womb. A year or so later, the couple once again made a decision, their hearts open. Caroline, who had gone back to grade school, had begun to think afresh about motherhood. With the experience she got working with children, an epiphany dawned. We want to adopt a child, Caroline shared with Michelle and James one day, her voice full of hope. Even in the absence of blood ties, love can create a family. You showed me that. That's a lovely thought, Michelle replied with tears in her eyes, her voice thick. You'll certainly be a lovely family. Tom also nodded, his face warm. We've learned so much. We learned that a true family is a tie where you stand for each other no matter how bad things get. That fall, the two of them brought 5-year-old Michael into their family, the day Sunny. On the first night, the 3 of them dined together. Michael looked at Caroline and said, "Thank you for being my mom." Caroline replied through tears, her tears happy. Thank you for being my son. Michelle and James too became Michael's uncle and aunt from that moment on. Their roles new. A bond of family, not of blood, had been newly established. A tapestry woven. 2 years on at Christmas, the extended family were gathered around the table once more. The room cozy. Michael enthusiastically discussed school, and Caroline observed her son's development, her gaze gentle. At that moment, I believed the world had come to an end, Caroline responded as she glanced around the table at her family. But it wasn't actually the end. It was a new start. Michelle nodded solemnly at her sister's words, her heart full. Family wasn't all about celebrating happiness, she mused, but never leaving one another, even when drowning in sorrow, and still holding each other's broken hearts. They had discovered that love is about meeting even the most horrible truths together, and still moving forward together. Outside the window, snow still fell softly, the flakes soft. But within the house there was golden light and laughter, a sanctuary constructed. A new family tale was softly unfolding, the pages turning. In Revenza tales, grief forges a path to love's strength, showing family is a heart's choice. This tale reminds us that healing sprouts from shared loss and starting over. Did Caroline's adventure motivate you to love your chosen family? Comment your thoughts and your city below. Where has this story ignited hope? Like, subscribe, and support with super thanks to keep these tales alive. Discover more in the links. And may your connections last through each season.